Welcome to Kennedy Saves the World. I'm Kennedy, and thank me for saving your world. The end. Actually, it's just the beginning. So as promised, we are going to have a fair and hopefully spirited discussion about the election from different points of view. So all things considered, I am an ideological libertarian. I'm not a member of the Libertarian Party. I am an unaffiliated voter. That means that technically I am an independent because I'm neither a Republican nor Democrat. And as I said, not a libertarian. And, I'm a mom. And I worry about kitchen table issues just like every other parent and every other functioning human. And I don't know where the next meal is coming from, if it's seamless or if I have to run to Morton Williams and whip something up. Having said that, my stomach dictates my electoral preferences. That's not necessarily true, but I am hungry for someone to convince me why I should vote for their person, always. And I like to think that in some areas I can be swayed. Now, as I ripen and go further into my political and personal journey, I think it's less important to pin my hopes and dreams and lust on a single candidate. I think that human beings tend to fail us in the political arena. But what I like to do, especially as a liberty-minded person, is go issue by issue and talk about things in terms of what this person has done right, what they've done wrong. Do they have a consistent ideology? And when it comes to presidential politics, we seem to land in an imperfect place in terms of picking the people in the final stretch who are going to become president. Because part of that is the cycles are so long. It takes us so long through jockeying and getting to know these people and various speeches in the Senate or the State House to the actual primary process. It takes now years in order to whittle the field down so you actually have a nominee. And this time around, I know it is being framed as the most important election of our lifetime, but whether you like it or not, either Donald Trump is going to be reelected or Joe Biden will become the oldest first-term president in the history of our great land. Having said that, they both bring strengths and deficits. And I want to know, because I have not yet voted, I want to know, is there a way that people who are invested in the personalities, ideologies, and journey of each of these candidates, is there a way that they can convince me to vote for their person? And I am all ears. I am so open to it. And so what I want my guests to do is really reach out to people who are undecided, independent, and probably liberty-minded, people who tend to want to have a constitutional consistency and want honor to be paid to, all of the amendments, especially the third, because we don't talk about that enough, but the first and second, absolutely. And what it is about their candidate that isn't just squishy and lovable superficially, but something about their candidate that would appeal to those who like limited government and who long for liberty. So joining me today on the right side of things, he's a big fan of President Trump. He is on the 2020 Trump Campaign Advisory Board. He writes for the Washington Times. He is an attorney, and he's a really smart guy. I've had him on my Fox Business Show a lot. Jason Meister is here. Welcome to Kennedy Saves the World, Jason.
Thanks for having me, Kennedy.
This is fantastic. And of course, his TV girlfriend, who is also an ingenue and nemesis of Jason's. She's one of my very favorites. I consider her to be a close friend and a confidant and a really decent and wonderful human being, although oftentimes, at least on TV, we end up on different sides of the issue. Jessica Tarlov is here. She is a Fox News contributor, and she is also a brand strategist for Bustle Digital Media. Jessica, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Congratulations on the podcast and all the nice things you said right back Gotcha.
You are awesome. Okay, so let's start this off. Jason, I will start with you because President Trump for libertarians has been a mixed bag. He is not as polarizing with libertarians as he has been with independents, never-Trumpers, and Democrats. So what is it specifically about the president's record? What has he done over the last 4 years that is satisfying to freedom lovers?
Sure, I appreciate it, Kennedy. And I really think there's a very strong case to be made for libertarians to vote for President Trump. When you look at the fact that he's pulled our troops out of harm's way, he's not started any new conflicts around the world and wars. He's dramatically cut taxes. He's deregulated, cut regulations by far, probably the most in modern history. I think the right to try, I think the First Step Act and criminal justice reform. I think when I think about libertarians, I think about school choice, which is something that he's promoted and expanded significantly upon. And I think about some of the Supreme Court justices that he's put up there. I think that when you think about what we're just hopefully coming out of this COVID experiment, I think you see a very stark contrast between how Democrats handled the pandemic and how President Trump and his administration has handled the pandemic, and Republicans have handled the pandemic. And I think when you think about individual liberty and civil liberties, and the fact that one party is potentially asking to have mask mandates, universal mask mandates across the country, lockdowns, school closures, I think there's a very strong case to be made for President Trump when it comes to libertarians.
I will give you points on his non-interventionism. I do think that is something that's attractive to libertarians. But on the flip side of that, the military budget has increased. And I think there is a way of showing support toward those who wear the uniform and to those who fight for freedom, but also having a realistic conversation about the size and scope of military. And I'm glad you brought up school choice, because I actually think that this is one of the issues that the president could really own. And he's talked about it a lot. And there are people at Reason and the Cato Institute who do a lot of work on school choice. And now, more than ever, as a lot of us during the pandemic have been locked down and we think about, geographic relocations, we also think about reimagining educating our children. And the actual education, the actual learning should be the most important thing. And if you look at some of the teachers' unions who have held students and teachers hostage in terms of school reentry, it gives a lot of parents pause. And I've been having these conversations not only with my daughters, but also with friends and educators. What does school choice look like? Because the picture is a lot clearer now than it was 7 months ago. But one of the biggest problems that I have with this president is the spending. And I think that's also something that's an issue that I have with Joe Biden. So I want you to kind of take apart some things that Jason was talking about, Jessica. So he's made a pretty convincing, like if you just take the top three, if you just take the podium of things that he's listed in terms of what President Trump, how he can be appealing to libertarians, why don't you try and dissect that without, we'll get into Biden in just a minute. But first, I would like for you to rebut some of Jason's claims.
Okay, let's do the damn thing. All right. So I appreciate you bringing up the issue about the military budget, because I think that is the greatest pushback. Interventionism is obviously a great tagline for libertarians, but there have also been military interventions, or at least strikes in the Middle East, for instance, that have gone on during the Trump administration, that there was some pushback from libertarians who were saying, I just don't want to be there at all. And then on top of it, actually, with the most recent one, I think it was the most recent, where we took out Soleimani, but ended up abandoning the Turks, who have been our longtime allies. I know but yes, on the side of the Turks against the Kurds. I know that's something that aggravated all of us, frankly, and many Republicans as well, that we're not asking to live in an ally-less world. And we certainly need to continue to be supportive of people who have been supportive of us and of our missions, however wrong it was maybe to get in there in the first place. So the military budget and then making some decisions.
For the full podcast, go to foxnewspodcast.com.